The sky turned black on the third day of harvest season. Elder Magistrate stood at the window of the council spire, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. His large, gentle eyes watched the dark shapes descend through the clouds. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They had no word for invasion. They had to borrow one from the translator. The Or had come, had heard stories about them. Every species in the galaxy had heard stories. The Or were creatures, tall and covered in black armor that grew from their own bodies. They had 6 limbs and mandibles that could cut through metal. They moved in swarms. They thought in swarms. And they consumed everything in their path. They were not warriors. They had never been warriors. For 10,000 years they had grown crops and written poetry and studied the stars. Their world, Velar Prime, was covered in golden fields and crystal rivers. Their cities were built from living plants that they had shaped over centuries. They believed that all life was sacred. They had never killed anything larger than an insect. Now the insects had come to kill them. The first explosions shook the capital city of Grace, watched buildings collapse in the distance. He heard screaming from the streets below. His communication tablet showed only static. Their distress signal had been sent hours ago, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. No one had answered. He had not expected anyone to answer. The Galactic Assembly was a place of speeches and trade agreements. One had begged them for protection 3 years ago, after the Or destroyed they had offered sympathy. Just sympathy. The larger empires did not want to anger the Dominion. The smaller species were too afraid to speak, and they had nothing to offer except food and philosophy. In the galaxy, that meant they had nothing at all. Across the city, a young archivist named Kella was leading refugees into the underground seed vaults. The vaults had been built to survive natural disasters. They were the strongest structures on the planet. Kella had worked in these tunnels for 20 years, preserving the genetic heritage of 10,000 plant species. Now she was preserving her own people. The refugees came in waves, mothers carrying children, elderly scholars who could barely walk, young workers still covered in dirt from the fields. Kella guided them deeper into the tunnels, past rows of glowing storage containers that held the future of agriculture. A child grabbed her arm. The little one's fur was matted with dust and tears. "Are we going to die?" the child asked. Kella did not know how to answer. She had never lied to a child before. She did not want to start now, so she simply held the child close and kept walking. Above ground, the Or landing ships touched down in the central plaza. The first warriors emerged in perfect formation. They moved like a single organism, each step synchronized with the others. Their compound eyes scanned the empty streets. Their weapons hummed with energy. The Hive Commander came last. He was larger than the others, his carapace decorated with the bones of conquered species. He carried a translation device that converted his clicking mandibles into words that others could understand. He activated the city's broadcast system. His voice echoed from every speaker, every screen, every communication device. "People of Velar Prime, I am Hive Commander Axe. Your world now belongs to the Dominion. You will surrender immediately. You will present yourselves for processing. Those who cooperate will be allowed to live as harvest stock. Those who resist will be consumed. You have 1 rotation of your sun to comply." In the council spire sank into his chair. Harvest stock. He knew what that meant. The Or did not just conquer worlds, they farmed them. They bred the survivors like cattle. They fed on fear and flesh. His advisors gathered around him. They spoke in hushed voices. Some wanted to fight, though they had no weapons. Some wanted to flee, though they had no ships. Most simply wanted to know what to do. They looked for answers. He had none. The hours passed slowly. The Or warriors spread through the city, breaking into buildings, dragging citizens into the streets. They were not killing yet. They were cataloging, sorting, deciding who would work and who would feed. Prepared the surrender document. His hands trembled as he wrote the words. He told himself that surrender would save lives, that compliance would buy time, that maybe, somehow, help would eventually come. He did not believe any of it. The static on his communication tablet suddenly cleared. A sound came through, faint and distorted. At first, thought it was interference. Then he realized it was a voice, an alien voice, speaking words he had never heard before. He adjusted the frequency. The voice became clearer. Velar Prime, this is the Terran relief fleet. Hold your position. We are coming. Stared at the tablet. Terran, human, he knew of them barely. A young species from a small world far across the galaxy. They had only been traveling the stars for 300 years. They were considered primitive by most standards, aggressive, unpredictable, nobody important. He checked the signal origin. The Terran was 340 light-years away. At normal faster-than-light speeds, that meant 6 weeks of travel. The Or would finish their harvest in 3 days. The message had to be a mistake, or a cruel joke, or perhaps the desperate dream of a dying mind. Set down the tablet. He picked up the surrender document. He walked toward the door. Then the tablet crackled again. Velar Prime, we have received your distress call. 12 ships are en route. Estimated arrival time, 47 hours. Repeat, 47 hours. Do not surrender, do not lose hope. Terra remembers her friends. Stopped walking. 47 hours, that was impossible. That was against every law of physics. That was insane. He looked out the window. The Or ships hung in the sky like hungry insects. Their warriors filled the streets below. His people were being herded into holding areas, their eyes empty with despair. 47 hours. He did not know who these humans were. He did not know why they would cross the galaxy for strangers. He did not know if the message was real. But he knew one thing. He would not sign the surrender, not yet, not until he knew for certain whether hope had truly abandoned them. He returned to his chair and held the tablet close. Somewhere across the vast darkness of space, someone had heard them crying. Someone had answered. Someone was coming. He only had to believe for 47 more hours. Admiral stood on the bridge of the TRS Defiance and studied the tactical display. 12 ships, 4,000 soldiers. They were flying toward a battle they could not possibly win. She smiled. The bridge crew worked in silence around her. They had received the distress call 18 hours ago. Most species would have ignored it. They were far away, weak, and had nothing to offer. Helping them meant angering the Or Dominion. It meant risking war with the largest military power in the quadrant. It meant sending soldiers to die for strangers. Humanity had not hesitated for a single moment. Captain Cole approached the admiral. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady hands. He had served with for 15 years. He knew what she was thinking before she spoke. The crew is ready, he said. The Marines are preparing their drop pods, but Admiral, I have to ask, 60 enemy ships, 200,000 ground troops, and we have 12 vessels. I can count. Then you know the odds. Turned to face him. Her eyes were calm. 32 years ago, a human colony ship called the Morning Star suffered a catastrophic engine failure near the border. 3,000 colonists drifting in dead space. No rescue coming. They were going to die. Cole nodded. He knew this story. Every human knew this story. A medical vessel found them, continued. They were not equipped for rescue operations. They had no military protection, but they stopped anyway. They spent 6 days transferring survivors to their ship. They gave up their own food, their own medicine, their own beds. They saved 2,000 lives. And asked nothing in return. Not a single thing. They said it was simply the right thing to do. Looked back at the display. The galaxy forgot about that. They probably forgot about it too. But humanity does not forget. We remember every kindness. And we repay every debt. In the lower decks, the Marines were checking their equipment. Sergeant Major walked through the preparation bay, inspecting each soldier. He was 43 years old with a face full of scars. He had fought in a dozen campaigns on a dozen worlds. He had watched friends die in his arms. He had killed more enemies than he could count. He was not afraid. Fear was for people who had something to lose. Private, barely 20 years old, was struggling with her armor seals. Stopped beside her and adjusted the clasps without a word. "Sergeant," she said quietly, "is it true what they say about thee or?" "Depends on what they say." "That they eat their enemies alive, that they keep prisoners conscious while they feed." Finished with her armor and met her eyes. "Yes, it is true." Swallowed hard. "Then why are we doing this? They cannot help us. They cannot even help themselves." Was silent for a moment. Then he spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "When I was 7 years old, my family lived in a refugee camp on Mars. We had nothing. No food, no medicine, no hope. One day, an old woman from the next sector brought us bread. Real bread. She had saved it for months. She gave it to us because my little sister was sick and needed strength." "What happened to your sister?" "She lived because of that bread, because someone we did not know decided that our lives mattered," straightened. "They showed kindness to humans when they did not have to. Now humans will show kindness to them. That is what we do, Private. We remember, and we repay." Far behind the fleet, on the planet Velar Prime, a young refugee named huddled in the ruins of a temple. He was 14 years old, barely an adult by standards. His family was gone. His home was gone. Everything he had ever known had been taken in a single day. He had heard the broadcast about the incoming Terran ships. He had laughed bitterly. Everyone knew the transmission was false. A trick. Maybe something the or had created to give false hope before the final slaughter. No one crossed 300 light years in 2 days. No one fought against impossible odds for strangers. That was not how the galaxy worked. Looked up at the night sky through the broken ceiling. The stars stared back at him, cold and distant. Somewhere among them, the or fleet waited in orbit. Somewhere among them, his people were being sorted for harvest. He closed his eyes and waited for the end. On the Defiance, Admiral received the final report. They were entering the edge of the Velar system. The Or fleet had detected their approach. 20 enemy ships were moving to intercept. "Admiral," the sensor officer said, "the Or commander is hailing us." "Put him through." The screen filled with the image of Hive Commander Axe. His compound eyes gleamed with amusement. His mandibles clicked as the translator converted his words. "Human vessels, you are far from your territory. You have entered Dominion space. Turn back now and we will allow you to live. Continue forward and we will add your bones to my collection." Stood perfectly still. Her voice was cold as void ice. "Axe, I am Admiral of the Terran Navy. You have attacked a planet under our protection. You will withdraw your forces immediately. You will release all prisoners. You will leave this system and never return." The Hive Commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Protection? They are not your allies. They have no treaty with Terra. They have nothing to offer you. Why would you die for them?" "Because they showed kindness to humans once. Because they saved lives when they did not have to. Because that is what humanity does." Leaned forward. "You prey on the weak because you think no one will stop you. You were wrong." Axe's amusement faded. "You have 12 ships, I have 60. You cannot win this battle." "Maybe not, but we can make you pay for every inch of space. We can turn this system into your grave. And when the galaxy sees what happens to those who threaten our friends, they will know that humanity keeps its promises." The communication ended, turned to her crew. "All ships, battle stations, marine companies prepare for orbital drop. We go in hard and we go in fast. They are counting on us." Cole stood beside her. "Admiral, if this goes wrong, Terra will not have a relief fleet anymore." Nodded slowly. "Then we had better not let it go wrong." On the planet below opened his eyes. Something had changed. The stars looked different. Some of them were moving. He watched as 12 points of light streaked across the sky, leaving trails of fire behind them. They were heading straight for the Orc fleet. His heart began to beat faster. It was impossible. It was insane. It was real. The humans had come. The first dreadnought exploded in complete silence. From the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral watched the enemy ship break apart. One moment it was there, massive and threatening. The next moment it was debris. The Terran had punched through its armor like paper. The Orc fleet hesitated. That hesitation cost them 3 more ships. Human vessels were smaller than Orc warships. They were also faster, more maneuverable, and armed with weapons that the Dominion had never encountered before. The Terrans did not fly in formation like other species. They moved like wolves, circling and striking and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Hive Commander Axe screamed orders from his flagship. His warriors had conquered 100 worlds. They had never faced an enemy like this. The humans fought with a fury that seemed personal. Every shot was precise. Every movement was calculated. They were not just trying to win. They were trying to send a message. All ships target the lead vessel, Axe commanded. Destroy their admiral, the rest will flee. 40 ships focused their fire on the Defiance, did not flinch. Helm evasive pattern Delta. All batteries target their command ship. Marines, you are clear for drop. Deep in the belly of the fleet, the drop pods launched. They were small, black, and shaped like coffins. Each one carried a single armored soldier. They fell toward the planet below like a rain of metal death. Sergeant Major felt the pod shake around him. The heat shields glowed red as he entered the atmosphere. His helmet display showed his target, the central plaza of Grace, where the Orc were holding thousands of prisoners. He had studied the enemy. He knew their tactics. They expected prey to run. They expected victims to beg. They did not expect anyone to drop from the sky and land directly in the middle of their formation. Smiled inside his helmet. Surprise was a weapon too. The pod slammed into the ground. The doors blew open, stepped out into a world of chaos. Around him, warriors turned in confusion. They had been sorting prisoners, separating the strong from the weak. Now a human stood among them, armored in black metal, holding a weapon that hummed with power. For one long moment, no one moved. Then opened fire. The battle in the plaza was short and brutal. Human soldiers landed all around the city, each one a precision strike against a specific target. They did not fight like the Orc expected. They did not form lines or advance in waves. They appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Private landed near the seed vaults. Her mission was simple: secure the underground tunnels and protect the refugees inside. She found the entrance guarded by a dozen warriors. She killed them in 8 seconds. The tunnel doors opened. A female stood inside, her eyes wide with shock. Behind her, hundreds of refugees huddled in the darkness. Lowered her weapon. "Are you the one in charge here?" The struggled to find words. "I am Kella, I am an archivist. What are you?" "Human, we received your distress call," checked her tactical display. "More enemies were approaching. We need to move these people deeper. Can you lead them?" "Yes, but you came for us, across all that distance." Was already moving to defensive position. "Of course we did. Now please get them to safety. I will hold this entrance." Above the city, the space battle raged on. The Orc outnumbered the humans 5-1, but numbers meant nothing when every Terran ship fought like 10. The Defiance had taken heavy damage. 2 human vessels had been destroyed, but 8 dreadnoughts were nothing but wreckage. Hive Commander Axe felt something he had never felt before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. These humans did not fight for territory or resources. They did not fight for power or glory. They fought for a species that could offer them nothing. They fought because someone had asked for help. They fought as if they were their own people. That was not supposed to be possible. That was not how intelligent species behaved. Every creature in the galaxy looked after its own interests first. That was the law of nature. That was the truth of existence. Except it seemed for humans. In the central plaza stood among the fallen. 30 warriors lay dead around him. His armor was dented and scorched. One of his arms hung limp at his side, but he was alive and the prisoners behind him were free. An elder approached him slowly. The old one's legs were shaking. His voice was barely a whisper. You came for us." Nodded, "We came." "But why? We have nothing. We are no one. We cannot help you." Looked at the elder with tired eyes. 32 years ago, a ship saved 2,000 humans. They asked nothing in return. Today, we return the favor. He placed a gentle hand on the elder's shoulder. That is how humanity works. We remember kindness, always. The elder began to cry. He had lived for 200 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed wonders beyond counting, but he had never seen anything like this. A species that crossed the stars to repay a debt of kindness. Above them, the tide of battle turned. Axe ordered a full retreat. His fleet had lost half its ships. His ground forces were being hunted through the streets. The harvest of Velar Prime had become a disaster. Admiral watched the enemy flee toward the edge of the system. She could pursue. She could destroy them completely. But her mission was not vengeance. Her mission was protection. All ships hold position. Secure the planet. Marines begin rescue operations. Captain Cole approached her. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. "Admiral, we lost 3 ships, 847 dead." Closed her eyes. 847 humans who would never go home. 847 families who would receive the worst news of their lives. "They knew the risks," she said quietly. "They came anyway. Make sure to know their names. Make sure someone remembers what they did here today." On the surface, crawled out of the ruined temple. The sounds of battle had faded. The sky was clear again, filled with stars and nothing else. The ships were gone. He walked through the streets of his broken city. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans. They were pulling survivors from collapsed buildings. They were treating the wounded. They were handing out food and water to refugees who had not eaten in days. One human soldier saw him standing alone. She walked over and knelt down to meet his eyes. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Shook his head. He could not speak. He could not process what was happening. These creatures had fallen from the sky like gods of war. They had destroyed an army that should have been unstoppable, and now they were helping, just helping, as if saving strangers was the most natural thing in the universe. The soldier smiled. "It is going to be okay now. We are here. You are safe." Finally found his voice. "Why?" The soldier seemed to understand the question. She stood up and looked at the stars above. "Because no one should have to face the darkness alone. Because your people helped ours once and we do not forget. Because that is what humans do." She walked away to help another refugee. Watched her go. For the first time in 3 days, he felt something warm in his chest. Hope. The fires burned for 3 days. Not the fires of war. Those had ended when the last ship fled the system. These were memorial fires, lit by human hands in the old tradition of their ancestors. 847 flames for 847 fallen soldiers. They watched in silence. They did not understand the ritual. They buried their dead in gardens, returning the body to the soil that had nourished it. Humans did something different. They gathered around the flames and spoke. Sergeant Major stood before the largest fire. His arm was in a sling. His face was bruised and tired, but his voice was strong. Private Maria Santos. She was 23 years old. She grew up in a small town on Earth where nothing ever happened. She joined the Marines because she wanted to see the stars. She landed in the Eastern District during the battle. She held a bridge for 6 hours against 200 enemy soldiers. She saved the lives of 92 refugees. She died with her weapon in her hands and a smile on her face. He paused, the fire crackled. We do not mourn Maria tonight. We celebrate her. She lived as a warrior and died as a hero. Her name will be remembered as long as humans draw breath. Around the fire, the Marines raised their voices. They shouted Maria's name to the sky. They told stories about her. They laughed about the time she accidentally set her barracks on fire during cooking duty. They cried about the last words she had spoken before the drop. They drank to her memory and promised to name their children after her. Elder Magistrate watched from a distance. He could not comprehend what he was seeing. These humans had lost friends, family, comrades. They had crossed the galaxy and paid in blood for a planet that was not their own, and now they were celebrating. He approached Admiral carefully. She stood apart from the others, her face lit by firelight. Admiral, I must speak with you. Turned, of course, Magistrate. Took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been dreading, the moment when the humans would present their demands. Every species in the galaxy operated the same way. Help always came with a price. Protection always required payment. I wish to discuss terms, he said. The collective is prepared to offer territorial concessions. We will grant exclusive trade rights for our agricultural exports. We will provide whatever resources you require. We understand that this intervention was not free. Stared at him, her expression was strange, almost confused. Magistrate, what are you talking about? Payment, compensation, whatever you want to call it, spread his arms. We know how the galaxy works, you saved us. Now we owe you, name your price. For a long moment said nothing. Then she laughed, not cruelly but with genuine surprise. Magistrate, humanity did not come here for payment. We did not fight and die for trade rights or territory. We came because your people helped our people once. We came because it was the right thing to do. But surely you want something. Everyone wants something. We want your friendship. We want to know that if humanity ever needs help, they will remember us the way we remembered them. That is all. Felt his legs grow weak. In 200 years of politics, he had never encountered anything like this. A species that fought for strangers and asked nothing in return. A species that valued kindness over profit, principle over gain. I do not understand you, he whispered. I do not understand humans at all. Smiled. Most species do not. That is okay. You do not have to understand us. You just have to know that we will be there when you need us. Always. Across the city, Kella walked through the rebuilt streets with a human soldier at her side. Private had become her constant companion since the battle. The young Marine had protected the seed vaults, saved countless lives, and then refused to leave until every refugee had been accounted for. You could go home now, Kella said. Your mission is complete. Shrugged, there is still work to do, buildings to rebuild, people to feed. I can sleep on the ship. But you have been working for 3 days without rest. So have you. Kella stopped walking. She turned to face the human. Private, why do you care so much? We are not your people. We cannot offer you anything. Was quiet for a moment, then she spoke slowly. When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. She said that the measure of a species is not how they treat their friends. It is how they treat strangers. It is how they act when no one is watching. It is whether they help when there is nothing to gain. Your grandmother sounds wise. She died when I was 12, but I remember her words every day. I remember them every time I put on this uniform. Looked at the stars appearing in the evening sky. The universe is vast and cold and mostly empty. The only thing that makes it bearable is connection, kindness, the knowledge that somewhere out there someone cares whether you live or die. Kella felt something warm in her chest. Your people truly believe this. Not all of us. We have our share of selfish and cruel individuals, but enough of us believe it to make a difference. Enough of us remember that we were once alone and afraid and someone helped us, so we help others. We pass it forward. We light candles in the darkness. That night they built their own memorial. They could not use fire, so they used crystal. They carved the names of every fallen human into pillars of clear stone and planted them in the central plaza where the worst fighting had occurred. Visited the memorial at dawn. He stood before the pillars, reading the names of soldiers he had known, soldiers he had trained, soldiers he had watched die. Tears ran down his face. He did not hide them. A young approached him. It was the refugee from the temple. "Sergeant, I do not know human customs. Is it proper to speak to you now?" Wiped his eyes. "It is fine, young one, what do you want?" Pointed at one of the crystal pillars. "I cannot read your language, but I want to know the name of the soldier who saved me. She had dark hair and kind eyes. She found me in the ruins and gave me water." Studied the pillar. That was Corporal Diana Wells. She died defending a school 3 hours after the initial drop. "She saved my life. She saved a lot of lives." Was silent for a moment. Then he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "I want to be like her. I want to help people the way she helped me. Is that possible? Can I learn to be brave?" Knelt down to meet the young one's eyes. Bravery is not about species. It is not about strength or weapons or training. It is about choosing to stand up when standing up is hard. It is about caring for others more than you care for yourself. "Can you teach me?" Smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. "Yes, young one, I can teach you." Far away, in the cold depths of space, a war survivor transmitted his report to the Dominion. He described the battle. He described the human weapons and tactics. He described the impossible intervention of a species that should have stayed out of affairs that did not concern them. The Supreme listened. When the report was finished, it issued a single command: mobilize the full swarm. The humans had interfered with Dominion business. They had destroyed Dominion ships. They had humiliated the Hive commander before the entire galaxy. They would be made an example. They did not know it yet, but it had just made the worst mistake of its existence. Humanity did not respond well to threats, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans stopped defending and started attacking. The war had only begun. 6 months after the Battle of Velar Prime, the galaxy had changed. The Dominion had declared total war on humanity. Their swarm fleets gathered at the borders of Terran space. Their propaganda broadcasts promised the complete extinction of the human species. Every intelligence analyst in the galaxy predicted the same outcome. Humanity would fall within a year. They were wrong. Admiral stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly. Delegates from 100 species watched her from their seats. Most of them had ignored the distress call. Most of them had expected humans to do the same. Now they sat in uncomfortable silence, waiting to hear what humanity would say. Stepped up to the speaking platform. She did not look afraid, she looked calm. 6 months ago, they asked the galaxy for help. No one answered, no one except Terra. She paused, letting the words sink in. Today, the Dominion has declared war on humanity. They expect us to stand alone. They expect the galaxy to watch us die the same way they watched the die. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. They are wrong. Behind her, the doors of the Great Hall opened. Delegates turned to look. What they saw made them gasp. Ships, hundreds of ships, visible through the transparent dome above. Ships from species that had never allied with anyone. Ships from worlds that the had threatened for centuries. Ships from everywhere. While you were waiting for us to surrender, continued, we were building something new. They cannot fight, but they can grow food. Their agricultural ships will feed our soldiers for a decade. The survivors cannot shoot weapons, but they can build engines. Their technology will make our fleet twice as fast. They cannot do battle, but they can heal. Their medical vessels will save lives that would otherwise be lost. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every delegate. You see, the galaxy made a mistake. They thought kindness was weakness. They thought compassion was foolishness. They thought that species who helped strangers were species who could be ignored. Her voice hardened. Humanity showed them something different. We showed them that kindness creates bonds. Compassion builds alliances. Helping strangers makes friends who will stand beside you when the darkness comes. Elder Magistrate rose from his seat. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. The collective stands with Terra. We cannot fight. We will never fight, but we will give everything we have to support those who defend the innocent. This is our promise. This is our debt. This is our choice. One by one, other delegates rose. The species that had never spoken in the assembly before, species that had been conquered and liberated and forgotten. They stood and they pledged their support. Not because humanity had forced them, not because Terra had threatened them, but because humanity had shown them something they had never seen before. Hope, back on Velar Prime, watched the broadcast in the rebuilt temple. He was wearing a new uniform now. It was not a military uniform. It was the simple clothing of a battlefield medic. Had trained him for 4 months. The old sergeant had taught him how to bind wounds, how to stabilize patients, how to carry the injured to safety. He had taught him that courage was not the absence of fear. It was the decision to act despite fear. Today was joining the Coalition Medical Corps. He would travel with the fleet, treating the wounded of every species. He would save lives the way Corporal Diana Wells had saved his. Kella walked up beside him. She had changed too. She was no longer just an archivist. She had learned Terran rescue techniques and adapted them for physiology. She trained volunteers across the planet, teaching them how to respond to emergencies. "Are you ready?" she asked. Nodded slowly. "I am scared." "Good. Sergeant says that fear keeps you sharp. He also says that courage is a choice." "Then make the choice, young one. The fleet leaves in an hour." Took one last look at his world. The golden fields had been replanted. The crystal rivers ran clear again. The cities were being rebuilt stronger than before. His people would survive. They would thrive. Because strangers had crossed the stars to save them. The war against the Dominion lasted 3 years. It was brutal and costly and filled with sacrifice. Millions died on both sides. Worlds burned. Fleets shattered. But slowly, steadily, the tide turned. The Dominion had expected to face humanity alone. Instead, they faced a coalition of species united by a simple idea. The galaxy was tired of predators. The galaxy was tired of fear. The galaxy had seen what humanity did at Velar Prime, and they had decided that they wanted to live in a universe where species helped each other instead of consuming each other. The final battle took place above the Dominion. Admiral led the attack personally. She was older now, grayer and tired in ways that sleep could not fix, but she stood on the bridge of the Defiance and watched the enemy capital burn. The Supreme surrendered 3 days later. The Dominion was dismantled. The Harvest Worlds were liberated. The survivors were given the chance to rebuild. Humanity had won, but more than that, the Coalition had won. The alliance of species that should never have existed. The friendship born from a single act of kindness 3 decades before. Years later, a historian named Kella wrote the definitive account of the siege of Velar Prime. Her book was translated into 1,000 languages and read on 10,000 worlds. The final chapter became the most famous piece of writing in galactic history. She wrote about the moment when hope had seemed lost. She wrote about the static on Elder's communication tablet. She wrote about the impossible message from a species 300 light-years away. She wrote about humans. We believed no aid would come. Our faith in the galaxy was broken. We had sent our cries into the void, and the void had answered with silence. We prepared to die. Then Terra's warriors rained down from the skies. They came not for profit or territory or power. They came because we had shown kindness to strangers once, and they remembered. They came because their hearts contained a fire that the darkness could not extinguish. They came because that is who they are. Humanity taught the galaxy a lesson that day. Compassion is not weakness. Kindness is not foolishness. The species that helps strangers is not a species to be ignored. It is a species to be feared by the cruel and loved by the gentle. They did not save us because we were valuable. They saved us because they believed everyone deserves to be saved. And in doing so, they did not just liberate one world. They gave the galaxy something it had never had before. Hope. On the anniversary of the battle, returned to Velar Prime one final time. He was old now, retired from service, his body worn down by decades of war. But he had made a promise, and humans keep their promises. He visited the Crystal Memorial in the Central Plaza. The names were still there, carved deep into the stone. 847 flames that had become 847 pillars. He carried a small bag with him. Inside were seeds from Earth, cherry tree seeds, grown from stock that his grandmother had cultivated in her garden on Mars. He planted them around the memorial, one seed for each fallen soldier. Found him there at sunset. The young medic was not so young anymore. He had served in the war, saved countless lives, and returned home a hero. But he still remembered the scared child who had hidden in a ruined temple and watched the stars fall. "Sergeant, you came back." Smiled, "I told you I would. Humans keep their promises. The trees will take years to grow. Then they will have something to remember us by, something living, something that blooms every spring." Looked at the memorial, at the names of soldiers who would never grow old. "We came from the stars, but we planted roots here. This place is part of us now, and we are part of it." Stood beside the old soldier. Together, they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. "Do you think we made a difference?" asked. Was quiet for a long time, then he spoke. 32 years ago, a ship saved 2,000 humans. They asked nothing in return. Today, the galaxy is free because of what happened here, because humans remembered, because they inspired a coalition, because kindness created something that cruelty could never destroy. He put a weathered hand on shoulder. "Yes, young one, we made a difference, and the galaxy will never forget it." The cherry trees bloomed the following spring. Their pink petals drifted across the memorial like gentle snow. Children played beneath their branches, laughing and singing songs about the humans who had fallen from the sky. And somewhere among the stars, on 1,000 different worlds, species looked up at the night sky and remembered. Terra had come when no one else would. Humanity had kept its promise. The galaxy had hope.